On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are reeling, having lost 4 games in a row, including 2 of them back-to-back to the Charlotte Hornets. What is going on in Dallas? What's happening with Luka Doncic? Is Kyrie Irving the problem? The Mavericks aren't even in the play-in picture right now, sitting at 11th in the Western Conference. We're going to unpack all of that coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Next game, how about Luka Doncic to score more than 26.5 points? What about LeBron James to have more than 7.5 rebounds? How about Chris Paul to have less than 8.5 assists? And what about Steph Curry to have more than 3.5 three-pointers made? So what is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy sports, but how does it work? Basically, you pick 2 to 6 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times back on your money on any entry that you submit. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. They've got you covered for all the action. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that simple. They're safe. They offer fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Joining us now, looking very, very disheveled, is none other than the host of Locked On Mavericks, Nick Angstadt. You can follow wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can see him in all of his distraught glory on YouTube. Just search Locked On Mavs wherever you get your podcasts. Nick, the Mavericks have lost 4 games in a row. They're sitting outside of the play-in tournament right now, including 2 back-to-back losses against the Charlotte Hornets, who are firmly at the bottom of the NBA standings. They are squarely in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. What is going on with Dallas right now? What's happening? Oh, no, not the bottle. Oh no.
It's bad, Jackson. I'm getting the bottle out. I'm drinking. I haven't taken care of myself. I feel as if I am the embodiment of the Dallas Mavericks right now, because it doesn't get much worse than this. You make a big trade at the deadline. You say, okay, the Mavericks literally, and this is not just like team propaganda, all that kind of stuff, Mav State media, whatever you want to call it. This is the best duo that's ever played for the Dallas Mavericks. Like the best 2 players at the same time that have ever played for this Mavericks team since 1980 when the franchise was founded. This is the best 2 players to ever play for them. And it's as bad. Abject disaster. It is just horrible right now. They're only a half game out of the play-in, which is the wild thing about this. But you can't, if you're the Mavericks right now, you can't even look at the standings because you just lost to the Hornets 2 times in a row. Where all the problems, I know you're going to ask me next, what's the problem with this team? The problems are too many to name at this point, because you can't just go, well, they're starting Dwight Powell instead of Christian Wood. They should start Christian Wood more. I saw some national people saying that. I've seen a lot of Mavs fans saying that. Like, you got to get somebody that can actually, defend the rim and can rebound and can hit threes. Well, you can't have Luka and Kyrie play both games against the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets without LaMelo Ball, Jackson. Oh my God, without LaMelo, without Terry Rozier, multiple players out. Your former first-round pick, Dennis Smith Jr., who was going to play cornerback in the NFL this year. He starts for them. They're playing Svi Mykhailiuk, who was Alex Caruso before. He was Austin Reeves before it was Alex Caruso, before it was Svi Mykhailiuk. That's who he was on the Lakers. Like, this is the team you're playing. You have Luka and Kyrie both playing. I don't care if you or I are the 3 other players out there. Like, you and I and no one else. Like, just the 2 of us. We play 4-on-5. If Luka and Kyrie are out there and you're playing against that Hornets team, you win. It doesn't matter who else is on the floor. So I'm not hearing it's because they have Dwight Powell out there. Oh, it's because Reggie Bullock sucks. Oh, it's because Josh Green isn't what you thought he was. It doesn't matter. There's no rotation thing. Today, after a game like this, you're not looking at rotations. I'm going to hyper-analyze minutes. Get out of here with minutes. Against this team, you cannot lose these 2 games. And to me, it rises and falls on the big fatal flaw that I've talked about for weeks on Locked On Mavs, and that's leadership. This team has no leadership. This team lost a huge leader in Jalen Brunson. I think I didn't even realize how big of a leader he was on the team, but you're realizing it now. Look at the difference between where the Mavs are and where the Knicks are, right? Like that's the big difference. The Knicks went from where the Mavs are right now to where they are right now just by adding Jalen Brunson. And Dorian Finney-Smith, huge loss of a leader, and we knew that at the time. And they haven't replaced it. And the coach is not interested in being a leader at all.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
He's hanging out, just watching. Like there's no scheme change. Like they look at this team, and this team has not. I'm just going on a rant. Jackson, you're not allowed to talk this whole time. This is the current state of me. This team has not accepted who they are at several different levels. They didn't accept who they were when they didn't re-sign Jalen Brunson or extend him last season. They didn't accept who they were when Jalen Brunson left, and they should have just offered him the max at that point. Just offer him the max. He said he would have stayed. At a certain point, I don't know if he would have stayed, blah, blah, blah. But you lose a cultural piece in that. You lose, obviously, talent for nothing in that. They didn't accept who they were when they bring Tim Hardaway Jr. back from injury and sign Christian Wood. At that point, you're not a defensive team anymore. You're an offensive team that just has to outscore teams, and they didn't embrace that until like a couple months ago. And then they make the Kyrie trade, and then they still just haven't embraced who they are several different times throughout this. They still have this defensive scheme that they're playing where it's relying on all 5 guys being great and being locked in and knowing who they like. You can't hide anybody in this defensive scheme. You can't hide many people in the NBA on defense and defensive schemes, but you're setting yourself up to fail every single night, and your margin of error has to be so big. Like the stat I tweeted out today, if Kyrie Irving shoots over like 53% from the field, they've won the majority of those games. If he shoots under it, then they haven't. Like they have to have both of these guys be great and to shoot great and to play perfect offense to get wins, because their margin of error is so small because they don't change anything. There's no change in what the coach is doing, the defense, anything like that. And now this is what you get. All those things that I just mentioned add up to where the Dallas Mavericks are now. And that's out of the postseason. Postseason, not even just playoffs. Oh, I yield my time.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, oh wow, I think that might be one for the ages.
You know what? This is how it makes me feel, Jackson.
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great. It's great. It's great, bro. It's great. It's great. It's great. This life's great, bro. I have no complaints. I don't.
That's how it makes me feel.
So I know you mentioned, right? You mentioned Jason Kidd is not interested in being the leader for this team. I find it interesting that you didn't bring up Luka's name. I mean, does some of this not fall, if there's a lack of leadership here, does some of that onus not fall on Luka to be a better leader for this Mavericks team?
Yeah, sure. Like there's plenty of blame to go around. The blame pie does not get filled in with just one person or just one situation. Sure, Luka could be a better leader. He's been in and out with injury for sure, and like they've had a ton of different things that have happened. And Luka does have to step up and has to mature. I mean, Jason Kidd called him out like in a weird passive-aggressive way a couple weeks ago when he talked about how he has to mature and be a better, player, not complain so much and whine so much. And that's where the team takes their cues from. This team has also played down to their competition. They just lost 2 games in a row to the Hornets. They played down to their competition all season. They lost a game earlier this year to the Rockets. To your Rockets, they lost that game. Now Luka didn't play that game, but they've lost to teams that have just not played some of their stars, who have rested some of their stars this year. And that culture, I think, comes with Luka. Like that happens because Luka will rise to the occasion. They'll beat the Sixers where Luka and Kyrie both score 40. They'll almost beat the Suns with Kevin Durant because they rise to that occasion. They get everybody pumped. And then all of a sudden when a team comes in like the Hornets, they go, we got this. It doesn't matter. I'm Luka Doncic. I can just go out there and win. And so, yeah, sure, some of it does come to Luka. He has not stepped up as a leader in that way just yet. He's still only like 24. Like he's been in the league for a while now, like 5 years. But he's still kind of a kid at times. And so that aspect has not really set in yet. And then nobody else on the team has really stepped up or can even step up. If you think about how long players have been in the league or, what kind of role they are. And so I think if there's going to be a leader that's like been there, done that, it would have to be Kyrie. And I can almost hear like through the force. I can hear those laughing at me from across the multiverse. But it would have to be him if it's going to be somebody this year. I just don't see Luka doing that and stepping up into that role this season if it's going to happen. And also, Luka mentioned after the first Hornets loss, Jesus Christ, I can't believe that's a thing that I can say. The first Hornets loss on Friday, that he's got some personal things happening. Like there's some stuff in his family life and stuff that, behind the scenes that we're not really going to get into that's affecting him. And you could just tell at the beginning of this second Hornets loss that he was just not himself. Like he's just not him at a certain point. And he's kind of been that way all year, where he's going to put up numbers. He's going to be second or first in the league in scoring, and he's going to put up those numbers. He's going to produce, but it's not extra Luka ball, and that's what the Mavericks need to be good, is extra Luka ball,
because almost a razor slim margin for error at this point with this Mavericks team. Nick, is the I'm going to coin this phrase, the Kyrie regret, is that starting to set in with this Mavericks team? Would this Mavericks team have been better off not trading for Kyrie? I know you pointed out the stat earlier, the games specifically 5-1 when Kyrie shoots better than 53%, now 1-8 when he's under that threshold. I mean, is it about because they haven't leaned into this identity fully of just being a team that's going to outscore everybody else, or is it more to do with just Kyrie was the wrong move for this Mavericks team?
You know what? We saw this a couple of times over the weekend of people blaming Kyrie, and it's mostly from outlets that are disingenuous or aren't really following the Mavericks day to day. Kyrie actually has not been a problem on this team at all. From everything that I've seen and heard, from even the answers he's given post game, from things that we've heard from players. Like I did a whole thing on Locked On Mavs about how Kyrie has become like, he's kind of stepping up as a leader. Maxi Kleber, after he hit that game-winning shot against the Lakers, had glowing things to say, went out of his way to talk about how Kyrie's been, a great teammate and an awesome teammate and all that. So if you're coming after Kyrie and saying, okay, there's Kyrie grit or whatever you want to coin it, it's, you're either going out of your way to go after Kyrie, or you think just because of his sheer presence, like just him being a person and being on the team, is making them bad. I just think what happened with this trade is it exacerbated all the other problems the Mavericks had with coaching, with scheme, with playing up and down to competition, with having a defense that was held together with paper clips, and then all of a sudden the main paper clip of Dorian Finney-Smith leaves, and then you're gone. Like it just falls apart after that. All that stuff that, having another ball handler, they had problems with multiple ball handlers all season. And then they trade Spencer Dinwiddie away. And then all of a sudden it's just Luka and Kyrie again as the ball handler. So like all these problems that you had before, it gets exacerbated because you bring in Kyrie. He's been injured as well. Like he's been in and out of games. Luka and Kyrie have still only played like 10 games together. And so it's not on Kyrie, but it magnified all the other problems that they had before that.
Can the Dallas Mavericks right the ship and even make it to the postseason? Will it happen at this point?
Back it up, Jackson.
What will the offseason hold for Luka and Kyrie? You will have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Mavericks. Nick, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
God, will I have it covered on Locked On Mavs? I guess.